Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a real estate podcast about what's going on in the condo market in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, which together comprise the South Florida area. I'm Peter Zaleski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder, Miami Condo Investing Club, joined here by my partner, my co-host, broker owner, CVR Realty, Jenny Huertas. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, you know what we're talking about today? We're talking about, is Miami a place with a great quality of life? And if so, how does it compare nationwide as well as worldwide? A lot of people in Miami would have you believe Miami is the best place. I like it. You like it. But The Economist magazine, not so much. Miami's coming in, Jenny, number 8 in the U.S. In the United States, it's the 8th most livable city worldwide. Barely made the top third worldwide. What do you make of that, Ms. Huertas of CVR Realty?
First of all, happy Monday as well. And yes, it's interesting how these rankings coming on, because if you ask to the marketing companies, you know, Miami is the one. Depends on who you ask, what are you talking about, and because when you see an overall good city, it's not just the beauty of it or the good restaurants. It's more than that. So that's why it's so interesting every year to see these rankings and how the cities fare and how if they got better or worse as per the ranking. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, this can be a fun conversation. Everybody, The Economist magazine, they have an intelligence unit. And what they do every year since 2007, they put out a rating and then ultimately a ranking in terms of where do 173 cities, how do they compare? How do they rank? Not only in the continent they're on, the country they're in, but also worldwide. So we're able to compare apples to apples how Miami operates. You listen to anybody in the real estate market, Jenny, they're going to tell you Miami is great value. It's cheaper than New York. Report came out last week saying Miami is now more expensive than New York City. So the sell side people got to take that talking point and they got to throw that out. The other thing we always talk about is livability. Miami's so livable. Walkability. I'll tell you, as somebody who walks, it's not that damn walkable. Maybe with the underline coming in underneath the Metro Rail, it's become a little bit more walkable, but you got to watch out somebody doesn't take you out with one of these cars as they're buzzing past you with the speed limit. There's no speed limit. Turn signal, it doesn't matter. So these are all sort of the issues, but we're gonna dive into it, Jenny, this week. Take a look at livability. What is the quality of life score for Miami? How does it compare to the country? How does it compare worldwide? How does it compare to New York City? We keep hearing all these New Yorkers talking about how New York's better. Well, I got a little surprise for you. How does it compare to Los Angeles? How does it compare to San Francisco? How does it compare to the top cities in the world, Jenny? I'm excited to get into this. What say you?
I'm totally ready for it. Just tell me and then I give you my opinion.
All right. So first and foremost, what I should tell you is this study that comes out from The Economist, they want $2,000 a copy, $2,000. Sounds like my billable rate.
Yes, exactly.
So what I have had to do is I've had to kind of work my way around and look for the loose ends and try to tie it all together. So we're going to give you as much information as readily available, as well as being accurate, but there might be some details that could be missing, and if so, just sort of giving that disclaimer at the beginning. And Jenny, when the economists when they go ahead and they assess what's exactly going on in a marketplace, they're looking at a whole variety of topics, and let me just sort of throw them out there to you. So they look at stability. What is the stability of the community? They look at the healthcare. They look at culture. They look at environment. They're looking at education and infrastructure. This is what all come together, is combined. They come up with a rating, much like we come up with our rating every Tuesday. We come up with the South Florida Condo Clip Index, where we're rating 23 different markets in South Florida, giving people an idea what's really what's active right now, what's strong, what's weak, and kind of how it goes forward. That's exactly what the economist is doing with their ratings. So, Jenny, are they missing anything with the way that their overview and their perspective works? Stability, which I guess is political stability. Miami, a lot of times people have said it's a banana republic, but whatever. You got stability, you got healthcare. Got a lot of healthcare benefits here in the United States under the big, beautiful bill, but that's, maybe we can discuss that. You got the culture. Miami's got to have culture. We got Wynwood. We have all these art galleries. We have all these artists who are here. You got the environment. Every time it rains, Brickell Avenue, West Avenue, and South Beach, not so good. You got education. Jenny, we got plenty of colleges down here. We got plenty of expensive private schools, especially in Coconut Grove, which some would argue is why Coconut Grove is so popular. And then you got infrastructure. Probably more syllables than it should be, but we got a metro rail that takes you close to everything, but not to anything. We have the Tri-Rail. We got the Bright Line, which may or may not still be operational based on its financial standing. We got Miami International Airport. We got Fort Lauderdale, which is Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. We got Port Everglades, which is the port in Broward. We got Port Miami. We got the Miami River. We got Port Everglades. But infrastructure, do we have the right amount of infrastructure? Do we have enough roads? Do we have enough public transportation? So, Jenny, big picture, what are they missing? Stability, healthcare, culture, environment, education, infrastructure. I don't see anything in here about FOMO. I don't see, how come we're not getting rated based on the fear of missing out? How come we're not getting rated based on the YOLO? You only live once. Where is that in The Economist? What is The Economist doing?
I think in my opinion, it's more like a YOLO than the FOMO because there is something a big one missing there, and it's affordability. So I know it's a word that it became controversial, but it is interesting. Obviously, when you're talking about these rankings, I definitely think of somebody that is living in the very well-connected area. They have schools for the kids that are private school, and they have all the hospitals. Of course, they have all the hospitals, and I think that part is not in the equation. Otherwise, the ranking would be completely different, in my opinion.
So you think The Economist, their intelligence unit, is not that intelligent? They're forgetting affordability. Is that what you're saying?
It's not that they forgot it. I think it's on purpose because...
Oh, they omitted it. Intentionally omitted it.
No, I think it's because it's the business part of it. It's another parameters, I'm sure, that how the business being conducted, how easy it is to make business in a part of the world or a city. So...
But it's called the Global Liveability Index. And if you can't afford it, how can you have livability, right?
Well, livability, that livable estate is for who? It depends who you're asking for. If you ask to a rich person, they say, yeah, definitely. I would definitely love to have a place in Miami, and I live, I don't know, in Mexico, or Colombia, or Venezuela, or whatever. Of course, it's more stable, it's beautiful, connected, close, climate. That they don't have the climate either. The weather, for example, is not there because I look at the ranking and they have places that are really, really, really extreme weather. So I think it's more based on on how to do business, conduct business, and the infrastructure that they need, financial and
Yep.
physical, and
Yep.
also
Yep.
hospitals and schools and things like that.
Yep. 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 And in terms of the economists, they're cutting edge. They were the ones, if you remember back in the day, they came out with the Big Mac index. Basically, they would look at the price of a Big Mac in any market around the world, and they could sort of tell you how the economy was performing. They would tell you how expensive the economy was, because a Big Mac should ultimately trade about the same price. Doesn't matter what city you're in, what country you're in. So, they're always ahead of the curve. We've had the pleasure. We've met some people who actually worked for The Economist. We've been published in The Economist in terms of quoted. So, a lot of respect for The Economist. They do some great stuff. But maybe a lot of people don't realize this report, they're identifying who's doing the research. A lot of the articles in The Economist, though, they don't actually have bylines. And the reason they don't, they know them internally, but what happens is you tend to get very affluential people, influential, significant movers and shakers who are writing things or contributing things in order to get the information out there. And, the byline may or may not add value, or it could create controversy. So, The Economist is one of those publications that, it's almost bittersweet because it's so good, but there's so much. You don't want to miss anything, but if you don't sort of bypass and skip, you're going to have so many of them stacked up if you get the hard copy. And then if you have the subscription, it takes you forever to read one of the articles because it's so good and you want to get into it. But then there's more and more and more. And it's like, it's constant. You can never catch up with all the information that they have.
No, this is true. This is true. It's really heavy, but at the same time, it's super interesting from their point of view. I really, really like the publication forever. And you're right. I never was able to catch up on those hard copies when they existed, and neither on the print that we have now. No, not the print, the version of it, electronic version of it. And but it's definitely something I like to quote. I like to take a look at because I think they're very good journalists. And you are a journalist, and you always told me about the economies. So I really like the publication. So I wanted to see why they are coming from on this ranking, but my best guess is that it's not based on affordability.
Not based on affordability. Well, we're going to tell you exactly where it's coming from, because what I just did, everybody can see it on the screen. I'm pulling up basically like an overview that The Economist put out. Remember, everybody, 2Gs. You want to buy their report, I'd highly recommend you do buy it. When you do, share the link with us so we can read the whole thing. AI can only take you so far, and some of the articles can only take you so far. So you can see here the headline or the cover, EIU, that's the Economist Intelligence Unit, Global Liveability Index for 2026. Nice little photo. They don't say where that photo is that I'm aware of, but Economist's been around, or the economic group's been around for 80 years. They've been doing this study since 2007. They look at 173 different cities. And in the report, they're going to give you country analysis, financial risk, and operational risk. But in terms of the index, let's hit on some of the key points. Gains in Asia have kept the livability index steady at the global level, despite deteriorating stability in the Middle East. And we all know what that's come from. That comes from a war that was launched by the United States and Israel against Iran on the 28th of February. To give everybody context, 30-year fixed rate mortgages were coming in at 5.99 on the 27th, which was a Friday. The following day, on a Saturday, the United States launched that war. If you look at a 30-year fixed rate interest on a mortgage, now you're probably looking at 6.7%. 10-year Treasury as we speak. And everybody, typically, if you add 3 points to whatever the 10-year Treasury is, that will give you mortgage rates for just kind of across the board, not for the creme de la creme in terms of those people with the perfect credit score. Right now, 10-year Treasury is coming in at 4.65, add 3 points for a mortgage, and you're looking at 7.6 roughly to get a mortgage, which is basically, it hasn't been good for housing, Jenny, because when interest rates go up, housing goes down. When interest rates come down, housing goes up. That's what President Trump wanted. That's why he wanted Jerome Powell out as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He finally, ultimately, Chairman Powell's term ended. Mr. Trump, President Trump has put in his replacement, Kevin Warsh. And, the industry thought that Warsh is going to be cutting interest rates to jumpstart housing. Unfortunately, inflation is at a difficult spot. The Federal Reserve tries to keep inflation at or below 2%. It was 4%. Then it dipped to 3.5. So it's too high, Jenny. You can't
Yeah.
cut interest rates if inflation's too high. So if you don't cut interest rates, residential real estate, housing is in a difficult spot. So that's kind of where we're standing related to that. But going back to this economist report, and let me just pull it up here. I'm taking a look at it. You guys see on one screen, but I have a different one. So it says Copenhagen remains the world's most livable city. We'll get into the details. We'll show you guys all the rankings. Western Europe still the strongest region for livability. That's no surprise to anybody. If you go there on vacation, Jen, it's much easier to live in Europe, but you can't necessarily make your money. So maybe you make your money in the United States and then you live in Europe. What do you think of that context?
Absolutely. That's what the people is doing. I mean, a lot of the people that moved out of the States are living in Europe because if you have a good retirement, meaning a combination of your regular retirement and an investment, then you can live there, well with, I don't know, $4,000 a month. Not here.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see some European cities on this list. They already told you Copenhagen and Denmark's number one. Jenny, here's one of the key findings. They said the Iran war, again, launched everybody February 28th, 2026. Supposed to take 4 to 6 weeks. We're now getting close to 6 months. Iran war has undermined stability across the Gulf region, contributing to a 1-point decline in the average livability score for each city in the Middle East and North Africa. Muscat and Oman and Kuwait City have seen the biggest declines in our rankings, while Tehran has fallen into the bottom 10 cities. Jenny, for what it's worth, we were discussing this before we went live. I was asking AI, and of the 173 cities, Dubai has always been compared to a place kind of like a Miami. There's been these regional hubs for investors who want to be able to sort of tap into a region, pan-regional type of center. So it was always like Miami. Dubai's really emerged. Then it was like a Singapore and maybe a Hong Kong. Singapore would serve Southeast Asia. You would have Hong Kong serving East Asia. You had Dubai for, say, the Middle East, parts of South Asia, the Indian and Pakistan population, as well as parts of Africa. And then, when you got into Europe, you pretty much had London or maybe like an Amsterdam or a Paris or so. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So Dubai was coming, and then all of a sudden we get this war. Jenny, the Iranians have been attacking bases. They've been attacking airports. They attacked Dubai airport to the point where Dubai is scrambling right now. They're offering residents of Dubai, if they can bring in friends and family to come on vacation, BBC's reported they'll give you $900 in terms of vouchers for you as a resident to do stuff. And you can max out at two guests or 2 groups of people visiting, and you could tap into this $900 because they're trying to take a grassroots effort, because everything that's going on over there, people are afraid to go to Dubai. They're afraid it's going to get bombed. People are getting arrested in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, because they're posting videos of the attacks, and that's scaring the hell out of everybody. So any thoughts about that, and maybe how Miami should be benefiting, because Miami is supposed to be the next best alternative. If somebody's looking at Dubai and now Dubai's gone sideways, why not come to Miami?
Yes, actually, I think there is a change right there, because a lot of people, I remember seeing all these ads and receiving emails from companies in Dubai offering real estate for Americans into my mailbox.
Yes.
Not anymore. I don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
Of the war. So now it's the opposite. Now, like, you guys come here, and so that's the way the markets are so crazy in not just the financial market, but also where do you live, where do you invest? You have to move your money, because if you were thinking about buying there, not anymore. Go to Singapore or go to Miami, not even Singapore, go to Miami or go to different places in Europe or even Latin America. So,
and you can't really go to Hong Kong because the crackdown by the Chinese, the mainland Chinese crackdown, the number of people have gotten arrested. There was a newspaper publisher. This guy's in his 70s, practically 80s. He got busted. He's, there's concerns that he could be dying in jail for publishing article. So Hong Kong has fallen off the board. When the Brits handed over Hong Kong, it was going to be one country, two systems, Hong Kong being its own system under the British colony and things that were set up. And then mainland China would do things its way. But, well, they've come in there and they sort of changed everything. They've gone after a lot of the people who wanted democracy and things like that. So Hong Kong's off the board. Dubai now is off the board. So basically, we got Singapore, we got Miami, unless there's an alternative that maybe is going to pop up of somewhere. So you would think Miami's really in the catbird seat here.
Yes, I think so. That's
so why is our rating so low? Don't answer that. Don't answer that until later. Okay.
Okay, I will do. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to set the scene for everybody. Okay, so let's scroll down here, everybody, so you're on the same page. And then we're gonna get to all the ratings. We'll show you guys exactly how it plays out. So bear with me. Well, I have a bunch of different screens open. I'm trying to find the one that you guys are looking at. There you go. Okay, so just going through it really quickly. 173 cities is what's been checking out. And the average score, everybody, is 76.1. 76.1. What the average score is 173 cities throughout the world. Here's just some examples of what they're looking at. Stability looks like, generally speaking, is what's fallen. Well, I think a lot of reason that's fallen is you got the Ukraine-Russia war. Maybe not necessarily the battle and the death that's occurring in Eastern Europe, but more so the effect on commodities such as oil, such as shipping. Then you throw in the Iranian situation. 20% of the world's oil and gas is coming through Straits of Hormuz, and it's basically been shut down either by the United States with a blockade and or Iran with the drone attacks. So you guys can see stability has basically gone to hell this year. You take a look at other markets. Healthcare, I guess, has improved. Healthcare has improved. You also see a pullback in culture and environment. Jenny, any big picture thoughts about that as before we kind of